Let's talk about Heart Machine. So, okay, SBI is partnered with a company called Heart Machine. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of this because Spanish JT released a video about it. I'm sure you watched it, but I don't think he played the entire video, obviously, in his video. So I wanted to go over the entire Patreon video in this video and just showcase it to you and kind of have a discussion about the nonsense that's in this video, because I think it's insane as a developer who has games that have been released in the past, that have been funded in the past, to now be trying to crowdfund while also still taking investment money, by the way. It's not like they're not taking investment money. They're taking crowdfunding money and they're taking investment money. So they're trying to double dip. They're essentially trying to make the gamers make up for their mistakes. That's what's happening here. So we have a video here. Let's bring it up. It's on their own YouTube channel. And after the video, we're going to go over the comments because they are getting unbelievably roasted in the comments. It is illegal. It is illegal, the level of roasting that's happening here in their comment section of this video. So the title of the video is called Heart Machine, Why Are We on Patreon? Right? So let's click the video and let's see. And keep in mind, this company is partnered with SBI and has been for a while. And also, by the way, will continue to be partnered with SBI. So they have enough money to hire consultants, but they don't have enough money to fund their projects. Interesting. All right, let's check it out.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I run Heart Machine.
Hi, Alex.
And we're here to talk about the Patreon. So, state of the industry, not great right now. Games are the greatest.
Why is that, Alex? Why is that, Alex? Why is the industry not great right now, Alex? See, this is my biggest issue with developers that put out videos like this, is that they started off with the whole like sympathy thing. Oh, guys, you know, the industry is really rough right now. Why? Why is that? Why is the industry rough right now? Do you even want to have that conversation? Right? Because I want to. I would love to have this conversation with developers. I think it's great because then we can have an understanding, a little bit of self-reflection, because they're never going to self-reflect on their own. That's proven. Look at them making this video right now. They don't want to have any self-reflection. They just want to be like, oh, yeah, the industry's in a lull right now for whatever reason. Who really cares? Just give me money. That's basically it. I'm going to put it to you like this, man. The industry is in a lull for a lot of issues. And the problem is that these developers try to pretend as if activism and ideology and wokeness and whatever word you want to tie to it, they want to pretend as if that's not a problem, that that's not an issue. But the thing is, quite frankly, it is. It is not the only issue. I would even say it's not even one of the main issues, but it's a big one. It is a big one. And they constantly don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend as if it doesn't exist because they're not self-aware. Because for them, that's more important. It's so important that they're willing to go and make a video begging you to subscribe to their Patreon instead of actually addressing the issues at hand. And the funny thing is, he mentions transparency in this video later on, which I find so interesting, that you're willing to give transparency in the development process, but only if people pay for it. So you don't want to be transparent unless people subscribe to your Patreon. Make that shit make sense, right? Because you guys know I talk about transparency in gaming all the time. So I was all for it when he was talking about transparency. I was like, great. But then he's like, well, you know, we're going to do it on our Patreon. So you're going to pay for transparency? What kind of shit is that? Anyway.
This form of expression that humans have ever created. There's a common saying in development that it's a miracle that any games are made at all, let alone good ones.
FYI. FYI. Sorry to all the men in this chat who wear nail polish.
The greatest form of expression that humans have ever created. There's a common saying in development that it's a miracle that any games are made at all.
I missed it.
Let alone good ones. And now it's even more brutal. Over the past 2 years, the industry has rapidly changed.
I missed
flipped
it.
around.
Oh, fuck. He's so fast.
Over the past 2 years, the industry has rapidly changed.
There it is. So I know there's guys out there that wear nail polish. And some of you are probably in this chat right now. But I'm telling you right now, if you wear nail polish as a dude, that's like an instant red flag for me. And listen, that might be because I grew up in a Spanish household, right? So if a dude shows up with nail polish in a Spanish household, it's like immediately chancleta, right? It's immediate like fucking belt across the back of your neck. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that, but like it's a super red flag for me. And it also just shows me that we're potentially, not necessarily, because again, I know some people that do this and they're like fairly normal. Trust me, I do actually know one or two that are like this that are fairly normal. I've worked with them in the past at old jobs and everything like that. But that's like few and far between, right? Very few and far between. So no offense to the people in the chat, but I take this as a massive red flag. When a dude is wearing nail polish, especially when we're talking about companies like this that are partnered with SBI that are now begging for money on Patreon because they can't get their projects funded. Because then it just kind of takes it to the next level. You know what I mean? It takes it to the next level of like, oh, we may potentially be dealing with like an ideological psychopath kind of a person. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just me personally. Don't take offense to it. I'm sure some people will. They'll be like, well, I wear nail polish. Yeah, I really don't give a fuck. I'm just telling you what my personal thing is. And I know goth people wear nail polish. Oh, whatever. Go fucking bite a bat. I don't really know what to tell you.
Flipped around and turned upside down. Funding for new projects is sparse, even for successful developers.
That's a lie.
Everything is far more expensive to make.
That's a lie. There's plenty of successful developers out there getting all their funding, no problem. So I don't understand. I don't understand why he's, you know, what successful studios can't get funding. Oh, you mean the ones that made a project that ended up failing? You're talking about previous successful studios like BioWare, for example, that have been getting subsidized by EA for the longest time. They used to be successful, and then they came out with Andromeda, failed. Anthem, failed. And then on top of that, now they got Dragon Age Veilguard, failed. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Paths we used to be able to take to create projects no longer exist. You've likely heard about this on some front. It's grim. 30% of all game developers have either been laid off or had their roles significantly reduced or affected over the past year alone.
Great work. Great work. Great work. Again, man, you're going to have those disingenuous people. They're going to be out there and they're going to try to say, oh, you're celebrating people losing their jobs. You should never do that. That's so mean. Fuck you. Okay? Fuck you. Yes, I'm celebrating. Because the people who lost their jobs that weren't psychopaths are skilled enough and talented enough that I know they're going to find jobs again, so I'm not worried about them. But the psychopaths that lost their jobs from studios that chose to attack people, that chose to go after people on X and whatnot, that chose to attack their customers, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck that they lost their job. I don't. You also want to know why? Because they would not give a fuck if something happened to me. In all actuality, they would advocate for it. In all actuality, they would hope and pray that it happens. Like I'm sure a lot of them do right now. So don't care. Don't care. 30%. If 30% of the industry is getting laid off in a year or less, then it's time for some self-reflecting, right? It's time for some self-reflecting and perhaps for thinking about what is happening. What is happening that is making that go down? Because you could blame anything you want. You could blame changing market, which they do. You could blame lack of funding, which only seems to affect you. You could blame anything you want. You could avoid blaming all the real things that are the problem. But it's going to come at some point. It's only a matter of time.
Studios have closed, many have left. And we at Heart Machine are not immune to this, having gone through layoffs in November of this year.
Yeah, they themselves have had layoffs in November, and that clearly didn't work. So even after the layoffs in November, here they are in December asking for money. So clearly, when people are like, oh, we're trying to restructure the company to make ourselves be in a better position for the next year and whatnot, yeah, that clearly is not working.
Since the old models are not enough, we have to adapt.
Yes, exactly.
So we're at
T-Man, 30% in 1 year is an insane number. It is an astronomical number. It's honestly pretty fucking disgusting. Can you imagine if we lost 30% workforce in any other industry? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if we lost 30% of the workforce in like construction, for example, or sanitation, right? Imagine losing 30% of the entire workforce in any other industry. How decimating that would be. But then the gaming industry, they're like, it's just a sign of the times. Like, okay, sure.
asking for support to help us to continue to not just survive, but to thrive, to help us prototype and build new projects, to help support us when the state of the industry has made it so much harder to exist. Ever since we got started back in the Kickstarter days, we've been big on talking directly to our audience. And we think this Patreon is an opportunity.
What did you say?
Talking directly to our audience.
Oh,
and we think this Patreon.
One more time. What was that, sir?
We've been big on talking directly to our audience.
Oh, interesting. So, again, I know he probably meant something differently. But see, the problem is that you're talking to your audience. You're not talking with your audience. Right? That's the big problem with these developers. And like I said, maybe he meant the other way. Maybe he meant the other way. But you just said we talk to our audience. Maybe you should talk with them. Instead of talking to them, instead of maybe preaching to them, perhaps you should talk with them. Have a conversation. Get to know one or two people. Just have a conversation. I'm not saying go parasocial, but I'm just saying maybe talk with them.
And we think this Patreon is an opportunity for us to do more on this front while also benefiting. There are a few key goals that we have in mind for this Patreon. One, to give a more thorough and deep insight into our own process and what it takes to make games. We'll be sharing exclusive write-ups, videos, concept art, design documents, GIFs, etc. from all of our projects past and present. Two. So
you can only get access to, you said bro looks devastated. Yeah, he does. He does, because he knows this is all right. Let's be real for a second, okay? I just want to be very real with you just for 1 second. Sorry, I had to cough. So I don't know how you guys are, but I have never and will never be the kind of person to beg for money, right? So like at this point, if I ever had, and I've been there, if I ever got again to the point in my life where I had no money, absolutely zip zero, I would never beg someone for money, especially not my customers, if that makes sense, right? Like I just would never do that. Like if it ever got to that point, let's say all super chats just cease to exist, right? They just completely cease to exist. Then I will find another way. I'll find another way, right? I mean, I have other ways, but I'll find another way to fund the channel and keep doing it for free like I was doing before. Because that's what I was doing before. So it's like, and even back in the past, it's too much of an ego thing. That's what it is. It's like, and I can admit that, right? Like it's a man ego thing. It's terrible. I'm sure it's terrible, but it's a man ego thing. Like I just will not ask for help. I will not ask for help in that regard. And I know some people are different. I'm not shaming people that ask for help. I'm not. Just for me personally, like I can't do that. I just can't do that, right? So when it comes to this, when you say, "Oh, bro, he looks devastated," I get that. I get that because as much as I may not agree with him ideologically, I'm sure as a man, the last thing he wants to be fucking doing right now is being on video begging for people to subscribe to his Patreon to save him. You know what I'm saying? It's to save his company. I'm sure that's what he's feeling right now. I'm sure he's feeling a little humiliated. I'm sure. Right. So I could get that, and I could see the devastation in his eyes. Why'd you say he's not a man, though? I mean, listen, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. I thought he was just a feminine man with his little, with his little nail polish. Tiger King said Hypno doesn't ask for directions when he's lost. I literally don't. If I walk into a store and I don't know where something is, I'm going to fucking find it. I'm one of those people. I'm going to fucking find it. I'm not going to ask an associate for help. I don't give a fuck if there's 50 aisles. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I am. I don't care. It's so bad. I know it's bad. You don't got to yell at me. I know it's bad. But that's just how I am. Like, I'm not going to fucking ask for help at all. Fuck that.
To share more about the issues in the industry that are driving the state of turmoil, e.g. corporate consolidation, overspending, accelerating costs, and a changing market. And 3,
wait. Go back. Hold on. What was that?
Issues in the industry.
Go back again.
From all of our projects, past and present. 2, to share more about the issues in the industry that are driving the state of turmoil.
So the number 2 thing that they're going to do with the Patreon is to share transparency as to the driving forces behind what's wrong in the industry. So you have to pay for them to lie to you about what's happening and what's wrong in the industry. Because you know what they're going to tell you is heavily filtered. They're only going to tell you, oh yeah, it's investing funds are lacking and the market's changing and blah blah blah, whatever. It's like, what turmoil? If there's turmoil, why is that? How did we get here? Let me hear everything he says. Hold on.
E.g. corporate consolidation.
Corporate consolidation. That's one of them. Interesting. And corporate consolidation happens usually after a few failures. So that's number 1. Overspending. Yep, that's definitely a big problem. Seems like you have that problem since you need money now.
Accelerating costs and a changing market.
Increasing operating costs in a changing market. So everything is going up, though. Everything is going up. Everything has been going up. Have you seen the price of things? It's not just you. But for some reason, all these other industries are finding ways to survive and move on. But it's only these certain studios that are like, oh man, things are very hard. It's like, come on, man. At what point are we just going to take some self-accountability? When are we going to sit down? When are we going to sit down and just talk business and realize that perhaps you guys are the problem? Right? Perhaps you guys are the issue. Perhaps what you did, they got you to this point, was the problem. So now instead of asking other people to bail you out of it, let's find a way for you to bail yourself out of it. I view it like this, right? This is how I see it. And this might sound gay, but it's true. So what he's doing right now is, with his mistakes, he is now coming to us and he's saying, please give me a fish. And we are trying to yell at him and say, hey, we want to teach you how to fish. And this guy is coming back at you and saying, no, just give me a fish. Keep giving me fish. And we just keep going back and forth like, no, I'm trying to teach you how to fish so that you don't have to ask us for fish. That's the best way that I could explain it. So they rather ask us to save them than have us teach them how can they save themselves. Because they don't actually want to save themselves. They more so just want to be subsidized. So that way they can continue to do the shit that got them here in the first place. It's a very, very socialist mentality, unfortunately.
And 3, to reach a bigger audience with more transparency in an otherwise notoriously opaque industry in the hope that we can share and do our part to help others better navigate and survive.
So they want to reach a larger audience by being more transparent, but they want you to pay for that transparency. So you mean to tell me that if somebody doesn't pay your company, then you're not going to be transparent with what you're doing with the products that you're trying to offer them? So you're not going to be transparent at all? You're just going to hide it? Or like, how does that work? How does any of that work? How are you going to reach a bigger audience by doing something that's exclusive like Patreon? The entire nature of Patreon is not to grow your audience. The entire reason for Patreon is to monetize your audience. Nobody uses Patreon to grow your audience. That's stupid. You use it to monetize the audience that you have and offer something, for that money. So, yeah, I don't really think he thought this one out through, unfortunately, very much. But at this point, I mean, let me just let him finish, and then we'll kind of have closing thoughts on this one.
We all love games.
We're
here because it's an industry driven by passion, but it's
Not
never
anymore.
been easy.
It's not passionate anymore, unfortunately. A lot of the people who work in this industry are anything but passionate, and it sucks, but it's true.
And we've been making titles that we're extremely proud of for 10 years now.
How'd you get those funded? You've been making projects for 10 years. How did you get those funded? Were you working with SBI for the last 10 years? I don't think so. So how did you get those projects funded? You mean to tell me you can't get those projects funded the same way again? You've been doing it for 10 years now. All of a sudden you can't? Seems a little sus to me, bro. This seems a little grifty. Right? This seems like the typical, hey, let's weaponize empathy and hope that enough people fall for it and we just get a couple of subs for it. So maybe we could pay for some office catering once a week or something like that.
And we want to make sure we can stick around for another 10. Approaches like this Patreon are part.
You should have thought about that before partnering with SBI. SBI, you got about 5 years left to live. It's like a fucking cancer. It's terrible.
Of what it takes to make sure of that, to get through the toughest times and come out ultimately better. We hope that you enjoy the content and inside access that we're providing here. And thank you so much for your support.
That's it. So I wonder, let me check their website. Well, not their website. Let me check their YouTube channel. See what kind of content we got going on here. So they barely even utilize their YouTube channel. The last time they did a stream was 4 months ago. The last time they did a video was 2 weeks before this. And then 6 months before that. So they barely do anything with their YouTube channel. It actually is kind of sad. So you're not even interacting with your fan base, right? If your YouTube channel is what you use to interact with your fan base, then why are you just letting it die? Why not just hire someone surely you could afford to hire someone dedicated to just your YouTube channel to offer transparency free of charge to your subscribers. Because if you can afford to hire consultants, you can afford to hire a fucking Gen Z YouTube editor. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to. I don't know, man. All of this just seems very, very, very disingenuous. Very disingenuous, and it just, I don't know, man. I don't know how much we gotta yell at these developers and give them advice and whatnot because they don't listen. That's really what it is. They don't listen. They rather just scratch everything off as bigotry, racism, sexism. They're too busy listening to fucking journalists that are going to lose their jobs anyway in a year. It's like, bro, the journalists are going to lose their jobs either slightly before you or slightly after you, depending on how much you actually listen to them. But at some point in time, if you keep listening to them, you're only going to join them on the unemployment line. That's really the issue. So when do we stop listening to them? Well, the truth of the matter is a lot of people have stopped listening to them. That's the beautiful thing. As we already know, gaming urinalism is on its way out. It's dead for the most part. There's a couple of known names left, right? Like you got your Jason Schreiers and everything. But for the most part, it's on its way out. And it's gonna stay that way so long as they continue doing this shit. So anyway, case in point, going back to what Blackguard said earlier in the stream to finish this off, I have no problems with developers trying to find different ways to try to monetize not only their audience, but also to try to fund whatever their projects may be. I have no issues with that, whatever way works for you, whatever your audience actually wants to contribute to. Because it's one thing to set up a Patreon. It's a whole another thing to get a successful Patreon. You know what? Let me see something really quick. Hold on. Do we have a link to their Patreon here? Do we have a link to their Patreon? Oh my God, this dumb motherfucker, bro. Okay, there we go. I got it. So let's check out their Patreon. Fuck it. Why not? Check out this Patreon. So, okay, 374 members. 3 posts. 3 posts. 3 posts. You can join for free. The first tier is $1. The second tier is $5. And the most popular tier is $10. You got a $25. You got a $100. Now, can I ask a question? I understand why they have a $1 tier. I totally get it. I understand. But you mean to tell me that $1 is going to decide whether or not your gaming project gets funded? $1 times 374 members, some of which might be free? Like, this very clearly cannot change very much. You probably should have made it 25 to 100. Or maybe even put like a founder's tier at 1,000 or something. I have no idea. But I mean, you're basically a stripper at this point. Hypothetically speaking. Look at this. Hold on. Their latest post was 4 days ago. Maybe it's time I finally let myself rest. 4 days ago. Bro, what? And then they have this one saying, why are we on Patreon? It's the same thing we just watched. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see how this is offering any value to your customers. And this is the reason why nobody ever supports you fucking people. Because you want to ask for the money first and provide the content second. And that's not how this shit works. That is not how this works. You need to provide the content first, and then people will support if they view it as something worthy to support. Otherwise, you're not going to get shit. You should be focusing on the content. This Patreon should be booming. Right? This Patreon should be booming. There should be fucking posts 3 times a day. This thing should be exploding right now. But you haven't made a post in 4 fucking days, and you're out here making a video like, please save us? Bro, come on, man. Put some effort into this shit. Put some effort into this, man. Seriously, it's like, it's amazing. These are the kind of people that call us grifters. These are the kind of people who say that all we do this is for is money. It's like, you motherfuckers can't even offer a product that people would even want to support unless they felt bad for you and they'll give you $1. That's it. Come on, man. You guys got to do better than this shit. You made sure to make sure that all of these tiers were fleshed out. You got all this shit nicely packed with all the information in the world. But then when you get to the post, it's like 2 posts. It's 2 posts. All this work up here for the $1, but you got nothing here to give them anything worth for the $1. There's no effort here, bro. This is trash. This is absolute fucking trash. You should be ashamed of yourself. You really should. Offer more for your customers. Offer more for the gamers out there that you want to support your shit. And then worry about them giving you money. It's crazy, bro. It's what happens when you keep listening to these anime fucking avatars over on X. Where they're like, yeah, link your Patreon. I would love to support you. Nothing happens. Nothing ever fucking happens.